Hey, somebody who wasn't too small was Hulk Hogan. And he's going to be the spotlight this week. I figured producer Robert actually made the suggestion, and it's like somebody we touched upon it a little bit last week, talking about him leaving the AWA and things like that. But obviously, he's such a name in wrestling, and has some polarizing aspects about him as well. Some people, no matter what, will consider him their favorite wrestler of all time. Others have taken other routes about him and given their opinions on him. Greg, you've worked obviously with him in an AWA. What was your first impressions of Hulk Hogan, and what was Vern's first impressions of Hulk Hogan too?
Well, the first time I saw him was in New York, and he was struggling. He hadn't found out who he really was yet. And I came up to him, I said, well, why don't you come to the AWA? We'll help you out. And I came back, I told my dad, I said, geez, this guy Hogan, we got to get him in here. He needs a lot of help. He goes, well, what's he like? I said, well, he needs a lot of help in the ring, and plus his character. I think he's a little lost in, who he really wants to be. They had him trying to be a heel, a bad guy, and that wasn't working. And when it took about 3 months before he ever called my dad. And he said, what should I do? I said, bring him in. I mean, God, we'll work with him. So I put him in. He was working as a heel up in New York. So they put him in Milwaukee as a heel, and they put Johnny Valiant with him as his manager because Hogan's interviews were just so.
Yeah.
And Christ, he came out of that in Milwaukee. We were sold out. He came out, and I'm watching him. And when he came out, the people exploded. And I went back. I said, this guy, he's not a heel. I mean, the people love him. They're going to love him. Well, what's he like in the ring? So he needs a lot of work. And then Vern had him on his interviews. He said, Jesus, he needs help on the interviews. So Vern helped with the interviews, and then they put him in 6-man tag team matches with Jim and I.
Oh, okay.
And then we just, so he could get the flow of the match. And it was unbelievable. I remember coming out to the Chicago, the Horizon. It was sold out, and we're wrestling Blackwell, Stevens, and Bockwinkel, and Bobby Heenan in their corner. And he came out, they introduced us, and then he gave it that Hulk deal. And I told Jim, I said, get on there, grab his T-shirt, and we tripped the T-shirt off real slow, and the people exploded.
Whoa.
So after that, he always did the T-shirt.
Yeah. And then, how about that?
Vern said, when you're coming back on the guy, you got to show that fire. Just start shaking. And he started, but that's the stuff we had to bring him along and teach him the finer things in wrestling that's going to help him establish himself.